Brian Nelson now in his 14th season as the head coach of Mary Persons, the Bulldogs, getting back on track this year. Let's talk about that offense, Coach. And your son, Mac Nelson, has really gotten some good time there at quarterback, and he's developed into a fine player. Take your dad glasses off for a minute and just put your coach glasses on there. Talk about his development as a quarterback and how he's done well for you, hasn't he?
He has, and he's had a good off season. He's gotten bigger and stronger. He's up to about 185 pounds, which, when he first started playing games for us, he was about 140 pounds, and so he's taken that to heart, and he's done a good job in there. And then just the experience. I mean, he started a bunch of games and played in a lot of football games for us, and not to mention the fact that he's been around this program his whole entire life, and from all the stuff that coaches' kids do, practice, bus rides, ball boy, in the locker room, helping out, coming up here on the weekends. He understands it, he cares about it, and he's been around not only Mary Person, but the game of football his whole life. So, we're really expecting him to have a big senior year.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of players from around him, the skilled players you've got to replace. Is that the big thing you're kind of working on as you wind it down and get ready for the games to start next week?
Yeah, well, our two leading receivers graduated. Both of them had big years, but then we have a really good receiver that got hurt in the summer last year that didn't play a snap, and then we had a situation during the season, and that kid was a receiver. So both those kids are back that we feel really, really good about. And then a little freshman kid, Mason Stevens, is going to be a sophomore, came on at the end of the year, really played really well. And then if you look at the other receivers, B.J. Jones started every game last year, and then Daniel Youngberg's a kid that's going to be a junior that, we really like and has had a good fall camp. And then you look at running back, C.J. Banks played a lot of football last year for us. He wasn't necessarily the starter, but he played a lot. So, and then 4 of our 5 offensive linemen are back. So we feel pretty good about where we're at offensively, and we're probably going to have to score some points because we got to replace a lot on defense.
Yeah, probably so. But a returning starter, a quarterback, and 4 offensive linemen will help the cause a great deal. I said next week, it's actually on the 22nd. You need an extra week to prepare for that game against Jackson, that's for sure, with that rivalry game, which will be a great way to kick off the season. All right, we'll talk about that defense and what to expect from Mary Persons in our next report. Back with Brian Nelson, the head coach at Mary Persons, now in season 14. The Bulldogs are going to have to replace some players on defense from last year's team with only 4 starters back. Let's talk about the good first. You've got them up front, and you said in our prior report 4 of the 5 offensive linemen are back. And look, I think every coach I have on here is going to prefer to have the strength up front to go into a season. You might sound different next year with all these guys, but hey, to have that up front, considering the fact that you've got to find some linebackers and secondary guys to step up, how big will that be, and how important will those 3 guys up front be for you, Brian?
They'll be huge, and they kind of got thrust into a role last year due to injury, and all 3 of them performed really, really well. And we've taken a starting offensive lineman from last year, moved him to defense, and then we've been able to move one of those defensive ends back to linebacker. So we've been trying to kind of patch some things up in some other places. But obviously, if you're going to have people back, it's preferred, closer to the ball on the lines of scrimmage. And all 3 of those guys have done a good job. And then, Cam Proctor is a kid that's a junior that we feel good about that maybe got 8-10 reps a game last year that has really come on in the offseason. So we feel good about where we're at up front, and hopefully get a pass rush to give our back end a little time to get their feet wet.
Well, real quick, do you feel good about how those kids at linebacker in the secondary have performed for you leading up to the season and kind of just developing and getting ready over the summer?
Yeah, the linebacking core, the main 4 or 5 of them, they're inexperienced, but they've got age to them. They're seniors, they've been in the program. They just haven't played a lot of meaningful snaps on a Friday night, and then the secondary was all, we feel good about them, but Thursday afternoon's a little bit different than Friday night. There's an adjustment there between JV and varsity football, and and those guys will have to, they'll have to kind of be thrown into the fire a little bit. But the way this power ranking and stuff is, you don't got time to mess around with non-region games and stuff like that because every game matters. So we feel good about those guys. Devin Davis, Kylan Mays, BP, Maddox Burnstead, Jordan Singleton. Those are all guys that are playing in our secondary, and we feel good about them.
Real quick, too, the region you're in, Region 2 in AAA, some schools that are north of you instead of playing the schools south of you. How did that go last year? And can you tell yet how you kind of compete with the Sandy Creeks and Ups and Lees of the world?
Yeah, it's really not a middle Georgia, central Georgia region. It's more kind of west and north, and it's a tough region. It's a gauntlet. The thing I noticed the most is you got to stay healthy because there are 4-quarter games every week. There's not one of those games. We were ahead or tied in the fourth quarter of every game we played last year. And we were right there. We feel good about it. And obviously we had some unfortunate things happen, but it's a difficult region. And bunch of good players, bunch of good coaches, bunch of historically good programs. And it's a tough 8-week stretch right there, and there's 9 of us. It's not like there's a bunch of good teams, but there's only 4 region games. I mean, it's an 8-game slate. It's almost kind of like the SEC a little bit.
Absolutely. When you have those long schedules like that, you got to play hard every week. Well, the first game will be a non-region game against Jackson on the 22nd. Can't wait for that one. Thanks for your time. Good luck to you, Coach. We appreciate it as always.
I appreciate you, Bill. Thanks, buddy.